the swallows come back to Capistrano.
When those precious little swallows wing their way back to the quaint old mission in San Juan Capistrano, at the end of a magical journey romanticized in story and song, spring is nigh. But that's not what we're going to talk about today, because you know what? Spring is just as nigh when big ugly buzzards return to Hinckley, Ohio, as they did once again yesterday.
Buzzard! 11:07.
Bob Hinckley,
First buzzard!
the official buzzard spotter, a prestigious title in these parts,
Buzzard back in Hinckley!
spotted the first returning buzzard of 2008. He posted the official time
Yeah, Mark, this is Bob Hinckley, official buzzard spotter up here in
and alerted the media.
Ohio. We've got our first buzzard back.
A flock of rare birds began arriving before dawn in heavy fog to see if the buzzards, also known as turkey vultures, would return as always on the date certain, March 15th.
Oh, sweating bullets. Pressure's on.
Bob was a bit worried. Would the flight of the buzzards be delayed due to inclement weather? Were the buzzards confused by the leap year? Are we going to see some buzzards today?
I hope so.
Assembled buzzard enthusiasts watched and waited.
So have you seen any?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Among them was Ken Buzzard and his family. Yes, that's his real name.
I'm always feel welcome when I come here, particularly after I tell them what my name is. They sometimes will pronounce it with the French inflection, buzzard, because yeah,
Buzzards. Face it, buzzards were dealt a lousy hand in life. They're big, ugly animals that smell bad and eat dead animals. Not that we don't. Don't take it from me. Bob is the chief naturalist with Cleveland Metro Parks.
Swallows at Capistrano, they get good press. Buzzards, not so good, you know? So,
Why is that?
well, they're kind of big and they're kind of ugly and they don't have any feathers on their heads and they don't sing. They just can hiss if the mood strikes them. They're not really attractive birds.
The good they do is worth the fright when seen upon the highways. They clean up things that quit and die in fields and along the byways.
But in Hinckley, these downtrodden, oft-disparaged birds have long been welcomed, admired, and celebrated, often in song.
But they're ugly, oh so ugly. The buzzard's not a pretty thing to see.
Soar 2, 3, soar 10.
You think this is it?
I don't think so. But
Celebrated too in dance. This is the buzzard bump, sort of, as interpreted by Hinckley trustee Martha Catherwood
you're natural.
and myself. We all have a little buzzard in us, don't we?
Yes, we do, especially in Hinckley.
Hinckley is also the only place we know to get a decent buzzard balloon animal.
Can't have just like some type of bird that doesn't look like it. You want to make sure it resembles a buzzard there.
You can't have like a wiener dog and pass
No,
it off as a buzzard.
that wouldn't work as a buzzard there.
Folks in Hinckley know their buzzards are not what you'd call attractive,
Extremely ugly. Absolutely.
but seem to love them all the more.
They're a dirty bird looking, but they're still ours.
When the buzzards return to Hinckley Ridge.
It's a wonder of nature that the buzzards return each year to exactly the same place and magically on exactly the same date. Although there are always a few wise guys who say they saw buzzards before the 15th. Anybody ever see any buzzards ahead of the 15th?
No, never. That is impossible.
Gee, those sure looked a lot like buzzards we saw on the 13th.
Well, Bill, people think they've seen Elvis too, but you know, it's mistaken identity perhaps.
While we await our harbinger.
There's one thing everyone seems to agree on about the buzzards' return to Hinckley.
It's a sign of spring. It's a sign of hope.
We really need spring to get through the snow. The buzzards bring it back to us every March 15th.
And though it may come on the wings of big, ugly, smelly connoisseurs of roadkill, we'll take spring any way we can get it.
When the buzzards return to Hinckley Ridge.
At Red Wing, Minnesota, spring is still only a rumor, and the first tugboats always have hard going on the way up to St. Paul. Here, March is just more of winter, and the river doesn't want to be disturbed.
When we left New Orleans, the trees were leaving out and everything's green. And we get up here now, yesterday we saw our first snow, up across on the north side of the hills, still some snow. So you see it all in one, 14 days. You go from spring to the dead of winter.
The Mississippi River is 2,348 miles long. Trout streams in Idaho and languid creeks in Pennsylvania contribute to it. It drains and defines the whole middle of America. It separates Iowa and Illinois. It keeps Minnesota and Wisconsin apart. And it's the bond between winter and spring. Here is the winter, cold and bare and quiet. The only stirrings are the stirrings of the river people.
See that houseboat in there with a black hull on it? That belongs to that fella up there that's got that capital barge service, Bob Drain. That's the Iron Coffin. That's his pride and joy. I guess that's about the only people I do know, the river people, to tell you the truth. Nothing wrong with that either.
Gordon Nelson is captain of the Ann King, a tugboat taking a tow of empty barges to fill up with Minnesota grain for delivery to New Orleans. The dry winter hasn't made it any easier.
They had real low water everywhere. We lost a horrendous amount of time this year just sitting waiting for dredges, waiting for the Coast Guard to buoy a channel. Well, its lowest, it got to, I think, a minus 7.5 feet. The lowest it's ever been since they've been keeping records in Memphis.
This is about the lowest I can remember. I worry about it because of my husband's business, because he's a lot more prone to hit a sandbar, break up toe. He can't push as much.
1,300 miles downriver at Vicksburg, Pete Smith, whose husband runs a string of survey boats, is worried, like all the river people, worried about an old acquaintance who is acting peculiar.
I just like, every time I drive by, I look and I see, well, look at the river now, it's doing this or it's doing that, or it's a very mysterious person. It's always changing, it's never the same. It's somebody you treat with an awful lot of respect. You may not like it, but you have to respect it.
What Red Wing, Minnesota and Vicksburg, Mississippi have in common is low water. What's different is that in Vicksburg, it is spring. The redbud trees are already in bloom among the gravestones at the Civil War Cemetery. At the Vicksburg Wharf, the Mississippi Queen is pulling away, an honest-to-goodness steamboat filled up with tourists for delivery to New Orleans, with stops in between. Here the river is warmer, prettier, busier, more like the river Mark Twain remembered. The great Mississippi, the majestic, the magnificent Mississippi, rolling its mile-wide tide along, shining in the sun. Sunset over Vicksburg. Sunrise over Natchez, just downriver. History has left the Natchez that Mark Twain knew mostly as is. The hazy sunlight, the warm and drowsy air, the opening flowers betoken the reviving life of nature. For we were in the absolute South now. No modifications, no compromises, no halfway measures. The Natchez Spring Pageant has started. Music and dance and the fine old mansions on exhibit. The Union Army bypassed Natchez. It wasn't strategic enough. Better not to be too strategic. So Natchez is the capital of the absolute South. In Minnesota, they have long winters. In Mississippi, they have long memories. Across the river on the Louisiana side, it is less splendid and more practical. The towns have practical names like Waterproof. The river people here are farmers, and they are worried about low water.
This whole winter has been an exceptionally dry winter.
David Gray is worried about what will happen to the soybean crop he's planting, but then it's spring, and it's supposed to rain in the spring.
Are you glad spring's coming?
We're ready to start another year, sure.
Yeah.
We're ready to get out here and either make a crop or go busted.
The winter is the snow and the cold, and you're always fighting the elements. You know, you got water lines froze up and stuff. And spring is, I don't know, just everything is rejuvenated. You know, it'll grow again, and everything's turning green. And
at Hastings, Minnesota, spring is still only a promise, and Henry Shaw is hoping there'll be enough rain in it to keep his hogs in feed. He's one of the river people, too, no less than Captain Nelson or Peetsy Smith. One way or another, they all say the same thing about life on the Mississippi.
I do everything from clean out a hog pen to, you know, discuss financing to the tune of $200,000 with a banker. You've got the whole spectrum of life. And the kids, they can grow up and go outside and run around and holler and yell, and, you know, I don't have the neighbors complaining about them.
Come on! Come on, get up!
Not an easy life, certainly, especially in the middle of a Mississippi drought. Ron and Craig Meyer had to sell off some brood cows last week to raise enough money to plant corn along the riverbank in Alton Township, Minnesota. If it doesn't rain this season, they'll have to leave the farm and the river. They're hoping for the same spring David Gray is hoping for in waterproof Louisiana.
You really get your hose built up in the spring, like when you're putting in the crop.
Lots of rain, nice weather, warm weather, not much wind for a good crop. Get everything started good.
At least you feel like you're doing something.
Right. I mean,
something to better yourself and not just sitting back and looking at the sky all the time.
Spring and the fall, I don't particularly care for winter.
Fonton Johnson has been a river pilot for 45 years. He is piloting the Mississippi Queen downriver, further into spring. In Mark Twain's time, pilots were the Galahads of the river, in mortal combat with sudden danger around the bend. That was before the engineers dredged all the eccentricities, all the excitement out of the Mississippi, and made of it the biggest interstate highway in America. So much for romance. So much for Mark Twain.
You wouldn't recognize it. It's gotten so much more complicated than when Mark Twain was out here, with all the traffic. And right now, beginning in the next month, these boats will almost be bumper to bumper. All the power, those cable crossings up the power lines, submarine crossings, to name all these lights. But there's not that much change in the channel anymore. Once in a while, there's several places it's a little it's unruly up there at Hog Point.
You're not saying it's like driving a truck.
Well, that's about what it is. It's like a glorified truck driver is what it really amounts to.
From Baton Rouge on down, the Mississippi belongs only to Louisiana. Here at last, spring is sure of itself. In the park at the state capitol, here lies Huey Long, among the Spanish moss and the azaleas and the pansies and the hibiscus. This week, the Mississippi Queen will be heading back upriver against the current, following spring toward Minnesota, where Henry Shar and some other river people are waiting. Spring's coming for certain, and maybe some rain, maybe.
You put the seed in the ground and let it grow and let God do his thing and you do your thing, and hopefully he smiles on you and you come out of it okay.
Like Ponce de Leon, baseball players are forever chasing the fountain of youth. It happens with the advent of spring. Just listen to the coach they call Hondo.
I'll be 62 in August. I'll be going in my 40th year of baseball. I was very elated and very thrilled to ask to be a member of this coaching staff.
It's okay, good.
I can still remember you coming to the plate and driving the ball out of the park. It was a pretty impressive shot.
Big, and I mean big, Frank Howard was a big-time home run hitter with the Dodgers. And later, the old Washington Senators, before he became a teacher.
I'm a baby. I've only been in it 40 years. Some of these guys have been in it 45 and 50 years.
Devil Rays.
He doesn't mean here, as in the training camp of the brand new Tampa Bay Devil Rays of the American League. He means here, as in Florida, where Ponce de Leon seems to land every spring. He's worked for the Yankees, the Mets, the Mariners, the Brewers, the Padres, the Braves. The Devil Rays are the latest stop for Frank Howard, and his teaching tool, the slender fungo bat that goes most everywhere he does.
Some of those guys handle that shillelagh pretty good. For years I used that long, thin barrel, but my eyes were a little bit better. But now, the last couple of years, I've gone to a little bit bigger barrel.
His eyes were plenty good enough to be hired by the Devil Rays manager, Larry Rothschild, to help him evaluate a clubhouse full of players being thrown together for the first time. There are proven players with big money contracts, like five-time batting champion Wade Boggs. And there are players like Russell Lee Mormon from Blue Springs, Missouri. Russ Mormon is 35 years old and the home run king of the minor leagues. He's played all over. One year he was in Buffalo, the next year in Hawaii. His suitcase is always packed.
I'm pretty much still the same hitter, but I've learned a lot, in terms of the mental game.
He's been compared to Crash Davis, the Kevin Costner minor league home run king hero of the movie Bull Durham.
This guy starts me off with a breaking ball. I'm taking him downtown.
Bring it. Bring it.
Russ Mormon has had opportunities. He has hit major league home runs in Chicago, in Kansas City, even in Florida for last year's world champion Marlins. But he's always wound up back in the minors.
I was telling my roommate last night about some of my trips to the big leagues. This is all I've really done for my whole life, and I enjoy the chance to come down to Florida and play in the sun and get ready to go and meet the fans.
Good. When in doubt, give it up.
But in the past, it's been a month here, a month there, never long enough in one big league town to get established.
Certainly have had my chances, but I've never had that opportunity to play a full year to see what I could do. And now I think, coaches and managers probably look at me as a fringe player, and it's somebody that could possibly help them in a pinch here or there.
All right, that's the right approach.
It's a situation in which a lot of the players in this Devil Rays camp find themselves. Players like David William Island.
Good. Outstanding. Very good, David.
Started with the Yankees, went to San Diego, then came back to the Yankees. Now I'm here.
Well, you got a lot of autographs.
Yeah.
Dave Island will be 32 this summer. The Yankees called him up 5 different times to pitch in the big leagues. But like Russ Mormon, he's better known for his minor league record. Most victories for the Yankee farm team in Columbus, Ohio.
For one reason or another, it didn't work out, and it's not always based on talent or ability or what you did in that particular camp. Sometimes you have guys that are locked into these big contracts, and no matter what they do out there, They're going to go out there every day and they're going to play.
For instance, Rolando Araujo, who got a $7 million bonus to sign with the Devil Rays. He's the former star pitcher of the Cuban national team, but he's never pitched a day in the big leagues.
I look at it still as the game I love and the game I've played as a kid, you know, but there's no denying that it's a big business now. I think you're always learning. At this age, I also know my limitations, what I can and what I can't do, but that doesn't mean I can't stop improving. You can always improve. You can always make yourself better.
Good. Outstanding.
Step her up a little bit, check your runner, now second base.
And better and better. Dave Island needs to impress manager Larry Rothschild if he's to win a job here.
You know, he's gone about it well, and, you know, his arm seems to be coming back from an injury, and so, you know, we'll see how he does.
Back like you're looking like you're doing something. Remember how we talked about? Hang out with especially killing time.
It's a little bit of a guessing game. If the organization asks us for an evaluation of a ball player, we got to be prepared to give them an objective, fair answer, honest answer. Put a good swing on because the elevation's already built into it.
For Frank Howard and his trusty fungo bat, this will be a spring training filled with decision-making. Decision-making for both the Tampa Bay management and a lot of the players.
In my mind, the two toughest years for any big league player, usually the first year, where most of us have a little doubt about our ability to compete successfully at that level. And then your last year, when you're losing your reflexes, your hand-eye coordination, your agility.
The man, the runner, is halfway or less.
To be eligible for a major league pension, a player needs 4 years of service in the big leagues. Both Dave Island and Russ Morman have a year and a half more to qualify.
I haven't given up, and Walt Raniak was one of the guys that set me down at the end of my White Sox stint and said, as long as you can keep playing, because when they come to take your uniform away, that's it. You know, you don't get a second chance after that, so just keep going hard and keep busting your tail.
I'll play this game as long as I feel I can go out and compete at the highest level. Once I feel I can't do that, I'm not going to try and fool anybody and go out there and embarrass myself.
The two areas in 40 years that are taught and taught well, but aren't stressed enough, are defensive outfield play and base run.
Frank Howard, the teacher, has seen a lot in his 40 years in baseball. So has his fungo bat. He's probably hit more fungos to more pupils than anyone else. And how many fungos would that be?
I don't know, 679,834, I don't know.
And 679,835, and 36, and 37, and...
Where are we now? We're in our living room, and this is a room that is more formal. And
On the surface, Diane Gregg and her husband have it all. The perfect family and a brand new dream home in a Chicago suburb. Likewise for Evie Floor. She and her husband recently moved into what also seems to be a showplace.
Evie, as I walk through your house, the first thing I think is home and garden. Where's the problem?
Thank you. But looks can be deceiving. Both of these women, it turns out, have a secret. A dirty secret. Diane Gregg's is lurking downstairs just beyond the family room.
So this is your area of shame. This is my area of shame. Here it is. Why are you so embarrassed about it? I think a lot of people have areas of their home they don't want people to see, and it's been a struggle for me to make it a priority to work on my storage area. To be perfectly honest, it's pretty much the last thing I want to do. Do you feel the sense of panic that we're getting closer to your secret?
Yes, as a matter of fact, they think I'm going to go back. The skeleton in Evie Floor's home is not only out of the closet, it's taken up residence in 2 whole rooms upstairs.
Oh my.
Be
Well,
careful, don't trip on
given the rest of your house, Evie, I hadn't really expected this. It seems like you are kind of afraid to throw things away.
I could never throw everything away. I'm the kind of person who finds dollar bills. I have a gift certificate from some very dear friends. It's $125 American Express gift certificates. I know they're in there.
This former executive secretary, who used to make short work of organizing her boss's papers, admits she needs help organizing her own.
I literally do have 5 calendars. It's ridiculous, and of course I miss appointments. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. That's not okay. So it's not what it appears.
But that's the least of her clutter problems.
I began to realize it was affecting not just me and my creativity, but it was affecting my husband as well. It was a room he didn't want to go into.
So she called in a pro.
These are all ideas for what you want to do to this new house, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Laura Olivares has been a professional organizer for 8 years.
And we walk in there and we have no judgment. We just basically ask the client how it got this way, what we can do to eliminate the clutter. Is this a piece that we need to keep in this room specifically?
No.
Meanwhile, back at the Greg's house,
she has a lot of unused containers. She's got some here, she's got some here. I'm not going to stop to look at photo albums. I'm not going to look and reminisce about things. I'm not going to sit there and chat with somebody about how we used this one time and had so much fun.
Jim O'Connor came to Diane Gregg's rescue. He's a friend of the Greggs, as well as a professional organizer.
I've worked for people with lots of money, some money, and no money. And I find the same situation. Everybody still buys stuff. Some people buy expensive stuff, some people buy cheap stuff. And they all keep it. And they all have a mess.
We've always been a nation of sentimental pack rats, but the professional organizers say that today, the ease of online buying and the abundance of cheap, foreign-made products have caused us to overfill every nook and cranny to the point where our homes are bursting with stuff.
So we kind of tell people, just keep what you really love and what you really need, not what you think you might need, not that somebody gave you as a gift 8 years ago and you've never used.
Don't know where to start? Just ask the pros.
There are actually 3 major steps. Eliminate, categorize, and designate a place to put it all.
Believe it or not, decluttering has become a multi-billion-dollar business. TV shows like Mission Organization and NEAT have loyal followings. There are so many how-to books and organizing products to buy that the industry has created its own clutter.
Welcome to the 18th annual NAPO Conference.
There is even a National Association of Professional Organizers. Last year, its 3,700 members helped 75,000 of us get organized. And what did they charge? On average, between $50 and $150 an hour.
Enjoy the conference. Thank you.
Just this past week, hundreds of them met in Boston. Their goal? To better organize their organizing businesses so they can better organize the rest of us.
We're the organizing authority.
Barry Isaac, who runs his own organizing company and has written his own book, is NAPO's current president.
And we offer an abundance of education, teleclasses, conference sessions to make sure that when our NAPO members are going out, they are up to speed on the most advanced products as well as the most up-to-date methodologies.
And why do professional organizers believe they're in such demand? Because they say 80% of what we buy we never use. We only wear 20% of the clothes we own. And more than half of us receive 10 to 25 pieces of junk mail a week. Clutter may be a current buzzword, but there's nothing new about it. In the 1930s, on the radio, there was Fibber McGee's overstuffed closet.
Oh, I know where it is. It's right here in the hall closet. Oh, no, no.
In the 40s, there were the headlines about the Collier brothers, buried literally under all their junk. And in 1954, there was this Saturday Evening Post cover, emblematic of so many American homes. At about that same time, a young fellow in Idaho was starting up a cleaning business to pay for college.
The kids had 75% more toys than they needed. The people had 25% more furniture than they needed, so the clutter cost about 40% of all cleaning time.
That realization has made Don Aslett a multimillionaire. He still has his cleaning business, but it's his books and his philosophy on clutter that have made him famous.
When you throw out physical stuff, you start throwing out the junk, a quiet spirit creeps into your life and testifies you don't need stuff to be happy. You get rid of junk, litter, and clutter, it's the biggest single change in your life.
But look at all the stuff Aslet keeps in his office.
In fact, Cynthia, it's just the opposite of clutter because it's controlled and it's used. Anything useful and used that's contributing is not clutter.
And get this.
A teddy bear with 2 ears missing that the cat piddled on one leg of it and the stuffing's fallen is not junk and clutter if the kids love it and use it. But if you got one in the closet as a shrine, like 10 teddy bears, and you have to take them off the bed every time you go to bed, it is clutter.
What is this?
This represents the drawer that everyone has in their house. Everybody.
To declutter your life, Don Aslet says, just get some boxes, label them, then ask yourself one question.
Doesn't matter who gave it to you, how much it cost, how long you had it, all that is really irrelevant about clutter. Does this enhance my life and does this enhance the life of others? And if it doesn't, that makes a real easy decision.
And if it's too hard to do by yourself, there's always a Laura Olivares or Jim O'Connor to help you do in a day what you've put off for years.
Oh my gosh, look at all this space. This is wonderful. I am truly impressed. It's really amazing.
There's good news at Evie Floor's house, too. That lost gift certificate was found.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Happy endings, not to mention uncluttered spaces. But for me, it was a different story. My encounter with Clutter King Don Aslet left me with these one-of-a-kind earrings, these Idaho potato pins, and a dozen books. In other words, I came away with more clutter, which is exactly what I didn't want to happen.
Spring in Chicago, a time when the highlights of the city's skyscrapers are joined by thousands of footlights along the shoreline of Lake Michigan.
Good night for fish, believe me or not. Come on, everybody.
I think I got a couple of mine there.
This one's smiling. Great, do it this way because you're going to pushing it that way.
To the uninitiated, it may appear to be much ado about next to nothing. A common smelt is an altogether unimpressive little critter, looking more like the bait than the catch.
You better get your limit now. You know what your limit is, don't you?
Yeah, I know.
All you can try to catch.
Perhaps Steve Palmisano, an owner of Henry's Bait Shop on the south side, can explain why a big sophisticated city would be in the grip of smelt mania.
After a long, cold winter, everyone's ready to go. They want to get out of the house. They have cabin fever.
I'm 58 years old, and I can remember smelting with my mother before I was born. You gotta tie that up as high as you can. It was a family tradition and a ritual. The girl has to take the smelt out of the net by herself, bite the head off, spit it out. And then she was accepted in the family.
My father broke me in. Matter of fact, we carried this fish bag and put him in the bathtub of our house.
The smelt?
The smelt.
The tradition is passed from generation to generation.
I'm not going.
Matthew, are you excited about this?
This is a run, right, guys?
This is a run. You guys timed it right. It's probably the best day all year.
Smelt may have an image problem in some quarters. They do not yet enjoy the status of, say, the Baltimore crab or the Maine lobster.
Smelt are kind of small and drab, so that's probably why they're underrated, so to speak.
Michael Mulligan of Chicago's Shed Aquarium says some people don't even know how to pronounce the name.
It's a pet peeve of mine, and maybe I'm too involved with the subject, but even my father says schmelt, and a lot of friends of mine say schmelt, and the common name is actually smelt, S-M-E-L-T.
The lack of respect extends to the aquarium gift shop. Hi.
How you doing?
Do you have any smelt souvenirs?
Smelt. Those are the fish that come in on the lake, right?
Yeah, you know.
No smelt.
No? Don't people come in and ask for smelt souvenirs?
No, actually they don't.
Very few people, I would guess, leave home to come to the
see
shed
the smelts,
aquarium to
right.
see the smelts.
People tend towards the larger specimens on a whole, and the smelt is often forgotten.
Larger specimens like the beluga whale are eating tons of smelt. But then, who isn't in Chicago at this time of year?
Where are the smelts on the menu?
We have smelts, delicious smelts.
No good without the tail.
Think of them as French fries. French fries with eyes.
And after the lemon, you dip them in the sauce.
Yep. Like I'm going to be upset. That's right. Don't splash your friend.
There is a small anti-smelt faction. This woman tried one for the first time.
Okay.
Okay. That's not a ringing endorsement. A preferred way of eating them is fresh off the net.
Without Grandma's batter, it's nothing. You gotta try it. Help yourself. You'll never get them fresh. All right. Atta boy, Anthony.
Can I help you?
I don't know. I have a little something here. Do you mount smelt?
Not too often, we don't. It's a nice size.
You'd be able to do it?
Yeah, we can do it in a little open mouth fighting pose.
Yeah.
You caught just one.
Yeah, just the one.
Well, it's definitely worthy of mounting then, I'd say. It's not the size, really, it's the memory.
These are not trophy fish. You have to catch a lot of them. So what's a lot?
We filled up 2 5-gallon buckets before 10 o'clock.
When they're running very, very good, you can get as many as 15, 20 buckets.
How many would that be? Thousands?
Yeah, probably about 20,000.
What do you do with that many fish?
You gotta put some time into cleaning them, that's for sure.
All right, now.
Veterans have their own systems. This man has it down to a science. Novices, on the other hand, struggle to achieve competence.
Now you could. Here, grab. Grab that. You can let the one go on your right hand. Pick up the one on the left hand. Continue walking back that direction. Hey, man, I thought you wanted to go smelt fishing, son.
Clearly, this is Dad's idea. Urban fishing has its own unique problems.
Sorry.
Oh, we're getting the south back here. Say just got midnight. Lot of fish.
When the old pros haul in a net laden with shiny smelt, they call it a Christmas tree.
Here, let's bring this over. Matthew, you're gonna get caught in the net, son.
Yeah, they're gonna die.
Jennifer, we're gonna eat them.
Well, this may not qualify as a Christmas tree, but it's certainly a shrub.
Okay.
Too nice. Wait.
He won't bite you. He will not bite you, son. Oh, terrific.
Finally, there is some evidence that this next generation of Chicago smelters is coming around.
Can we put it in again?
Yeah, we'll put it in again.
No.
Yes?
No, we have baths and homework tonight.
Coming to understand that to fish for the uncommonly unspectacular smelt is to put at bay other cares of the world.
These are his gills.
Yes, that's what Mabel's fish to breathe underwater.
When he shines the light on it, that guy, you can see through it.
It's a little
Every year about this time, the Japanese have a spring festival.
It is called Sakura Matsuri. They gather together to celebrate with play and music the new cycle of growth. This particular festival is not in Japan, but in Brooklyn, New York, at the Botanic Garden. The cherry blossoms here are just as fragrant, just as beautiful. They're celebrating all the new growth, but especially the trees. This is the way we think of trees, towering majestically above us. But there's another kind of tree. The Japanese call these little trees bonsai. Some of them are hundreds of years old. Like their larger cousins, they have proportion and form and their own unique qualities. But somehow, because they are so small, they have a special beauty. There are 600 bonsai here at the Botanic Garden, and the man who cares for them, makes them grow, is Kazuo Fuji. He's been here for 12 years.
When I work with bonsai, I watch them or taking care of them every day. If I don't feel good, which is that they don't feel good.
If you don't feel good, they don't feel good.
Yeah, that's sometimes I feel. Which is, if I feel, I have to be best all the time to care for them.
So you think of them as creatures which feel.
I think of, yeah, or another hand, I think of they are my family.
Your family?
Yeah.
The word bonsai means a plant in a shallow pot. But what it really means is a tree shaped into a living sculpture by years of pruning, wiring, and special care.
This winter I just started wiring, also shaping up this tree. Why I have to, where you want to bring branches up or down, sideways.
Is that a copper wire?
Yes, I've been using a lot of copper wire. And I wire them to open up each branches.
Mr. Fuji says some people have expressed concern that he's torturing the trees.
But that helps to make tree grow good or beautiful. Which is, if you look that way, I don't think that's torturing at all.
Does each tree have a different personality?
Yes. Like pine, to me, I like pines, and they has more muscular looking, strong trunk, needles, and maples, they're more tender, delicate looking, usually.
Kazuo Fuji studied with a bonsai master for years, the man who took care of these trees before he did. He learned not only about the physical care of the plants, but also a kind of bonsai philosophy. And he will pass on that philosophy to someone else. For instance, why bonsai are always planted off-center in the pot.
I think that he was saying that God always sitting middle of the bonsai pot. So you never planted bonsai middle of the pot. That's more like a...
That's the middle is for God.
Yeah. I think people came to see bonsai, they enjoy, so that makes me more pleasure, gives me more pleasure.
Wisteria. Oak. Redwood. Beech. A whole forest of perfect little trees.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the world-famous Watchman store here in Laughlin, Nevada. Can you imagine that?
Imagine a P.T. Barnum of wristwatches. That would be Ray Lindstrom, the Watchman.
We want you to pick them up and try them on. Push all the buttons, turn all the dials, you know?
Ray sells more watches than anybody anywhere. Watches and clocks of every conceivable and inconceivable kind.
20,000 watches and clocks, all under $20, that's right.
Not sold on the internet or at Tiffany's in New York, but here in the corner of a casino in tiny Laughlin, Nevada.
We're ready? All right.
Hey, the first man gets a free watch, huh?
That's me. That's me.
People stand in line.
Hey, thanks a lot for coming in, folks.
And buy them by the basketful.
I'm taking a bus trip because I want to come to the watch store.
So how many watches are you going to get today?
3 today.
Now, you might think that daylight saving time would be a nightmare for somebody with 20 or 30,000 watches to reset. But then you don't know Ray.
We're going to do a fabulous job. We're going to turn all those hands. Watchman, watchman, watchman.
Ray whips his team into a frenzy for an all-out assault on the hands of time.
On your marks, get set, turn those dials, let's go!
Talk about beat the clock, 20,000 watches to reset before Sunday. Is there a seniority system?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, because the people who have been here the longest get the easy ones to do.
What are the easy ones?
Well, the easy ones are the clocks with the great big knobs, you know, they're real easy to turn. The hard ones to do are the little ladies' watches with the little tiny stems.
And then we have the dreaded LCDs, which nobody wants to do.
Sometimes we don't have any nails left by the end of the evening.
There are setbacks, literally.
I was going backwards instead of springing forward. I have to do it all over again.
Spring forward, fall back.
And a few signs of combat fatigue. Now, Ray could avoid all this by simply moving his store someplace that has no daylight saving time, like American Samoa, or right across the river here in Arizona. But that would spoil all the fun. Did you ever dread daylight saving time?
Well, at the beginning we did, but after we turned it into something fun, then it became a holiday.
Time in the morning, time in the evening, time in the summertime.
So while you're setting your clocks ahead this morning, think of Ray and have fun. Time flies when you're having fun.
No, you go there and I'll go this way.